Today, 7 world leaders are meeting in Canada, but it won't be a straightforwardly chummy meeting. Instead, this year's G7 is likely to be a knot of pent-up geopolitical, economic and diplomatic grievances with a number of newly elected and appointed leaders. The summit is likely to be overshadowed by the eruption of attacks over the weekend between Israel and Iran after Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu ordered strikes on Iran's nuclear program. Overnight, Iranian missile strikes have pierced Israel's Iron Dome defense system, while Trump has reportedly intervened to stop an assassination attempt on Iran's supreme leader. The conflict in the Middle East will be the starkest, but by no means the only dividing line between the US and its G7 allies. While Trump has been lobbying to an end to the conflict, he has been pretty much steadfast in his support for Netanyahu and his government, even as diplomatic relations between Israel and other G7 nations are increasingly fraying. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has urged restraint since the strike started on Thursday night, and this is after cutting off trade talks with Israel earlier this year. The other big point of contention is, as ever, trade. This is the most major international summit since the new US president put in place his sweeping international tariffs, which are likely to slow down global growth to rates that we haven't seen since the 1960s. G7 watchers will remember Trump in 2018 when he caused havoc by announcing steel and aluminium tariffs just before the meeting and ended up walking out of the summit early to go and meet Kim Jong-un in Singapore. And that's another big factor this year. There's been a lot of leadership churn since the last G7 last June back in Italy, when it was then hosted by the Italian PM Giorgia Meloni. So Joe Biden, Rishi Sunak, Olaf Scholz and Justin Trudeau have all either been voted out at various elections or stepped down to avoid losing those elections. And that means this is Keir Starmer's first G7 too, as well as new Canadian PM Mark Carney's. He will be angling for a bilateral meeting with Trump, in part to flesh out the details of the much trailed but still quite vague US-UK trade deal. And elsewhere on the agenda, of course, there is Ukraine's President Zelensky. He'll be there, he'll be pushing for continued military and diplomatic support for Ukraine, and lobbying for sanctions against Russia to be amped up. And as well as this, climate change will loom large, particularly in terms of combating forest fires. All in all, this year's G7 has the potential to be more frenzied, tense, and higher stakes than the last one. For everything you need to know as the story continues to develop, head to cityam.com.